So what is this all about? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And it's very simple. It's to build a Slack community. Shock horror. So what this is all about is sharing best practices, our experiences, and the things that we do with Slack. So Slack as a tool is massively malleable. You can pretty much do what you like with it. And to me, that's the attraction of the platform. You can build in the things that are important to you and present it all in one place. However, what's important to me might not be what's important to Yanis, or indeed what's important to your business or your group of people who use Slack. So really, it's about sharing stories and making friends, to be honest with you. It is that simple. We're hoping as things go on and the country goes back to normality, whatever that is, we can do a lot more in-person events. I know I've certainly got sort of online webinar fatigue, shall we say. So one of the things we'd really like from you, either in the chat in Bevy today, which is the platform we're using now, or in the Slack community workspace, I can see somebody's asking in the chat, how do they join? I think Jonathan's going to share the link for you in a second, so you can just click that. I'd love your ideas, and I think anything goes, really. For me personally, I'd love to do a hackathon. Some really deep dive technical sessions. I know I've got people from within our organization who would love to come and show you what they've built and how it works. And likewise, it'd be cool if you did the same. That's my personal feeling. But likewise, I'm more than happy to come and talk to sort of tech leaders, culture people in terms of how that operates at your company. And I think it's just about, like I say, sharing ideas really, and hopefully having some fun along the way. So if you have got any ideas, any topics you want to cover, if you'd like to know some specific Slack technology per se, a session on workflow builder or something like that, please do let us know. And everything will go in the melting pot, and we'll do our best to serve the community well and put on whatever events you think would work. One of the questions we've got here in the presentation is, would a mini hackathon get you excited? It would get me excited, and I don't think it even necessarily has to be mini. I personally think it'd be cool if we ran it as a little competition, teams of 3 or something, over a couple of hours on a Thursday evening or something like that, perhaps in Birmingham with a ton of pizza. That would be fun for me. So yeah, Yanis, anything you'd like to see from the community as our first guest speaker today?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of love communities like this, because I think it's an opportunity to kind of collaborate and learn from one another. So kind of, yeah, I'm really here with it. I guess kind of same as the rest of the people, it's to learn as much time to give, really. What I find amazing is that this is the first ever chapter in Birmingham, because of course Cal Henderson, the co-founder of Slack, studied at Birmingham City University. So a local lad, done good, now lives in San Francisco, of course. But yeah, I think kind of one of the aims should be to get Cal to come and do a guest spot. I know a few people at BCU who might be able to pull a few strings for us. So watch this space on that one.
I think we've got Neve on the call hiding in the background. He's our rep from Slack directly, and she runs the community's platform. So yeah, we'll have to ask nicely if we could get Cal in. That would be wicked. There she is in the chat. Thank you very much.
Big ask, I know, but hey, if you don't ask, you don't get sometimes, right?
I'm sure he'd give us 10 minutes to come talk to fellow Brummies about what he's up to now from lovely San Francisco.
Exactly.
That's cool. Right, I think it's over to you now to have a chat about what you do or how you do.
Yeah. So thanks, Carl. So I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about kind of I guess Slack in our world. But before I do, I guess kind of I'll kind of tell you where we came from and when we decided to use Slack. So we set up Birmingham Tech Week as it was back in 2019, really on a whim. So we realized that there was an opportunity to do more collaboration across the region, inspire people to get into technology, but also do that kind of celebration piece to, shout about kind of the amazing entrepreneurs, businesses, programs, initiatives that take place across Birmingham and the wider West Midlands as well. So really back in July 2019, this was just kind of an idea. I put it out there into the ether, and really with the aim of thinking, if we get 200-300 people to attend in the first year, that'd be great. And also that would have been manageable. So fast forward to October, we had 5,000 people attend across 6 to 8 events and 40 different locations across the region. And that was great. Very kind of, proud and privileged, and a great kind of thanks to all the team that were involved in that. But it wasn't smooth sailing along the way. And I think my biggest headache was email. Just trying to manage email across lots and lots of different stakeholders and, interested parties. It just became a kind of almost a bottleneck of productivity and collaboration. So then when we kind of started to think about kind of 2020 and kind of Birmingham Tech Week, version 2, I kind of said, look, I don't want to use email again. I mean, email has to be used in certain scenarios, of course, but I want a kind of centralized communication channel. And a couple of people said to me, have you come across Slack? At the time, I hadn't. And we started to investigate what Slack could do for us. And I was just blown away, really, by kind of, how we could utilize it across our entire technology stack. So the kind of diagram that I've got on the screen right now, I'll kind of talk you through them and give you some kind of examples. So Slack for us integrates into Google Workspace, which means, yes, we still do email, but actually email is more kind of a formal communication channel. Whereas Slack becomes more of the collaboration tool and the ability to, have conversations on the move. The other great thing about Slack for us is it gives anyone the ability, wherever they may be, to kind of quickly engage with it on their mobile. And again, email isn't kind of the greatest to use on a mobile, so that's good. But also we can integrate it into kind of Google Drive and Google Calendar. So an example there would be, we may be discussing on Slack a particular objective or challenge or opportunity that may be related to a document in Google Drive, and quickly we've integrated Google Drive so we can pull that document within the Slack environment. So unlike email, again, when you're having to kind of almost have 17 tabs open and kind of constantly kind of go from one to the other, everything can be done in Slack, which for me is kind of the biggest benefit. Calendar integration, so it can give us reminders of when I'm meant to be kind of in a meeting, and that's always handy, especially kind of the digital world we all live in now. So kind of moving on, we then use a platform called Hey Summit, which is our kind of event management platform. Again, Hey Summit links into Slack, so we can see when a new speaker's been onboarded onto the platform. And then Eventbrite, we can see when people have kind of had tickets. So some of our paid events are run through Eventbrite. So all of a sudden, we're keeping track on kind of our metrics and how we're getting on. Zoom integration as well. So again, we can kind of pull Zoom meetings into Slack. We can set up Zoom meetings in Slack as well. So again, with Birmingham Tech Week, a lot of it is, online panel discussions and kind of speaking opportunities. There we can kind of simply kind of, write a few commands and again, Zoom is set up without having to actually physically go into Zoom. Canva is what we use to do a lot of our design work. So again, pulling kind of Canva cards into Slack and kind of doing that review process as a team just speeds up the process. We're all online, we're all available, and you're not having to wait, sometimes a couple of hours for people to come back with answers over email. Xero slightly different there. So we're able to see when invoices are paid, which when you're running kind of quite a large scale event, it's nice to see where your cash flow's at and when you can commit to doing other activity. WordPress, we're able to kind of do quick reviews of web pages and blogs. So as and when we're bringing on new partners, again, new speakers, new events across the festival, we can kind of review all that within Slack. Copper's our CRM, and some great things that Copper does to integrate into Slack, so we can see updates on leads, opportunities, deals, deals won. And that's great because obviously when we, see that, we've got a new sponsor who has signed, it gives us the opportunity as a team to celebrate within that kind of Slack environment, and we can always jump on a call or a video chat and kind of, grab a beer or a glass of wine at the end of the day and kind of celebrate that win. MailChimp, we can see, the number of people that have opened emails, interactions. So again, kind of keeping abreast of what's going on with our communication. And then finally, Zapier. Zapier is great because it gives us the opportunity to create custom workflows across all these different platforms and do some really exciting and interesting stuff within the Slack environment. So for us, Slack sits at the heart of our comm strategy and everything we do. And honestly, I could not live without some examples, I guess, of kind of what we do with Slack. So volunteer organisation, so all our volunteers are onboarded onto our Slack environment, and we can quickly give them the right documentation. Team members can help them get up to speed as quick as possible. Speaker onboarding, so again, speakers have a section so we can kind of get them to collaborate with one another, and that's great because they can share insights, they can make sure that they're not talking about the same things, so there's a lot of kind of varied topics going on across the event. Sponsor engagement, so we've got an area for sponsors where sponsors can I guess kind of learn about how they can get the most from Birmingham Tech Week, which is really good for them because it creates a good experience and a good ROI for what they've paid for. Brand asset management, so making sure that we know what kind of assets are being managed across the organisation. Spoke about the kind of interaction lead opportunity deal notifications. What else have we got? Delegate support. So that's a really important one. So when we have, for instance, a delegate query over email, we can quickly bring that into Slack and a number of people can kind of work on that. That's great for kind of real-time comms, especially kind of when you've got kind of maybe 4 or 5 events going on at the same time during Tech Week. So that works really well. Community experience and just bringing the wider community into the fold and having really kind of good conversations and starting to kind of crowdsource ideas for future activity and future events as well, because ultimately we want to make sure that we're delivering value to our community. And then a few fun ones at the end. I love the Giphy integration. It's probably my favorite actually. And Jonathan will know this because Jonathan helped us out with Birmingham Tech Week last year. But when you're kind of over a digital channel, sometimes it can get a bit laborious. So being able to share a funny GIF, whether that's around someone's done something a bit silly, or you're having a bit of Friday fun, whatever it may be, it just kind of brings a level of entertainment to your communication. And then Spotify playlists, again, when we're having Friday drinks, people can share their Spotify playlists through Slack, and we can kind of again have a laugh of their kind of dubious music choices as well. So I mean that's allowed us to kind of again manage kind of a large number of attendees, a huge number of speakers, and a big number of partners as well. But what that's done for us is it means that we're now using kind of 33% less email as an organization, which for me is great because it's just streamlined communication across the board. In part, that's played to our kind of really strong NPS as an organization as well, and increase in revenue. So we're able to kind of do a lot more and kind of keep a track of leads and opportunities, and just make sure that we're nurturing our opportunities in the right way. So hopefully, that's give you a bit of a flavour for kind of how we use Slack, and happy to take any questions.
I've got a question for you, Yanis, and thank you very much for that. It was very interesting. What's next? What haven't you got in Slack yet, and what do you plan to do next that you haven't yet implemented? What's the next big thing for the Slack platform at Birmingham Tech?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's probably kind of maybe something I can get from the community here. Actually, what are we missing? I mean, I'm a big fan of kind of reading kind of blogs and even in preparation for this session, I was kind of thinking, actually, what is out there, in terms of Slack integration? What aren't we using that could enhance our kind of operation? So yeah, I'm keen to know kind of what other people are doing really, and what we're missing really.
Dan Rodriguez has got a question. He said, how easy is it for small companies to sort of do the types of integration you just mentioned? I could answer this myself, but I'll let you answer it. Just
It's really easy. So you've got two types of integration really. You've got native integration. So most of the, if I go back one slide, so most of these platforms here have got native integration, which means it's a couple of commands that you kind of call from Slack. And it will bring in kind of whether that's a document or a web page or a Canva card or whatever that may be. If you can't do that through kind of the native integration, then Zapier is a great tool. And again, it's not you don't have to know how to code. It literally is creating workflow, so it's drag and drop. It's kind of saying if this happens, then make this happen in Slack, essentially. So in answer to your question, yeah, I've seen lots of different types of businesses use it, from 1-2 person companies all the way through to I was working with a San Francisco company, one of the fastest growing companies in San Fran, and they use Copper. They use well, I'm just giving away who it is. It's Copper. They use Slack across their entire kind of customer and employee engagement. So yeah, it can be used for all sorts of sizes of company.
That's a great answer, and obviously it's worth mentioning Workflow Builder, which is in my mind still a fairly new development. I think it's actually been out about 2 years now, but time passes me by. And that keeps getting updated. So for some integrations, Dan, it's as simple as opening Workflow Builder, and off the top of my head, you could get something out of Slack to update something like a Google Sheet or something like that, and that's super duper easy to use. And off the other end of the scale, and I can imagine the types of things you're worried about. Sales pitch for Synaptech here. We're an integration company. This is what we do. So if something isn't pre-built, or you don't want to use a Zapier or similar, and you've got some bespoke platform that isn't able to be easily integrated, 9 times out of 10, if an API for that platform exists, it's pretty easy to build that integration, and that's what we help customers do as well. So you've got lots of options, but as Yanis said, a lot of stuff is out the box. You just plug it in, turn it on, and off you go, really. And to me, that's one of the attractions of the platform, is how quickly you can just get everything in that. I don't want to say single pane of glass because it's very salesy, but you know what I mean? Just bring everything into the platform and there it is on your phone. And that's always what I've loved about Slack. It's convenient, it's easy.
Yeah, and I think kind of you just popped something into my head. I think kind of one thing I'd love to be able to do is, within Slack, is kind of live delegate interactions. So running polls and Q&As and everything like that, in Slack while we're doing kind of our live events during the week. I think that would be a great way to be able to kind of ensure that people were kind of responded to immediately, and kind of again, Slack becomes our kind of prime channel for all engagement.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a chat about that, Yanis. I've actually been to conferences where they've used a Slack workspace for the whole conference. And what they did is, for each session of the conference, they had a Slack channel, and the host would be in there along with whoever. And I actually love that, because you could have a real conversation, whereas sometimes, especially with tech conferences, it feels a bit distant, especially doing it virtually. It's just they're on stage doing their thing on video, and you're just like, oh, this feels very impersonal. But to actually have a chat over Slack, that I think works really well.
Awesome.
Any more questions for Yanis on what he gets up to at Birmingham Tech? We've got the Q&A at the end, worst case. I'm going to answer Nick's question, actually, because I think it's very good. He's just popped up. Nick says, what effect do you think the acquisition of Slack by Salesforce will have on Slack and also integrations? I don't have any inside information, and maybe Neve could help us out after the session. But as far as I'm aware, the only real change is I can imagine the Salesforce integration is going to get better. And apart from that, I can imagine the rest of it's going to stay exactly as it is, if not improve. I don't think there's any great changes to the Slack roadmap at this point. So, yeah. If you're a Salesforce user, great. It's probably just going to make Salesforce a bit better for you, but otherwise it's going to be exactly, I won't say same old, but stay as it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was a Salesforce ambassador when the company I worked at were a Salesforce partner, and obviously Salesforce acquire a lot of organizations, and you only ever see those organizations get stronger and better, actually, because they don't, they invest a lot in their acquisitions. So I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you've got Salesforce already, then you're going to get a really, really strong integration. But I think actually your Slack opportunities and kind of development is going to kind of probably get faster and stronger as well. So kind of even if you don't use Salesforce, I think you'll get benefits.
That's a fair comment. Cool. I think that's everything for now. Let's move on. Thank you very much, Alex. That was good. Lee, I'm gonna kind of talk about what you've mentioned in the chat now. So we'll crack on. So as I explained, the team discovered Slack when we were actually working on a data center migration. So within an IT ops team, we found this tool called Slack. And it was like, oh, this is really cool. We can pipe all our alerts into Slack, and we can see them all on our phones, which at the time was radical. It was like, wow, this is amazing. Because previous to that, it would be a ServiceNow thing. It would hit ServiceNow. The app wasn't configured properly. So every time there was an alert, we had to click an email link, which would bang us out to the ServiceNow platform. We'd have to log in ServiceNow. Try and do that on your phone a couple of years ago was painful. And then you'd have to zoom in to the ServiceNow interface and go, oh yeah, look, the power went off and it came straight back on. Cool. And that took like 10 minutes to do that. So to just have that alert there in front of you, piped straight through to your phone in Slack was brilliant. We're like, wow, this is really cool. And then we started using it really as an instant messaging tool. And then we realized that we could actually start to, fix some of these server issues. And at the time, like I said, it was my job to run the team who supported. It was actually Virgin Trains in Birmingham, those of you know, in Victoria Square. I was like, wow, this is really ace. And that was at Spherica, where Jonathan is working right now. And it was like, well, we could apply this to like other business stuff, right? So us techies went to the business and said, we've got this tool called Slack. It's really cool. We think we can do more with it. It can't, it does more than just server alerting. And what happened was it sort of spread throughout the organization. And then what happened was Spherica decided to create a new business unit, which became Synaptech, which I am the CIO of now and have the pleasure of running. And for me, that was an amazing opportunity, a bit like Yanis, in the sense that, right, I've got a blank sheet of paper. We get to decide what tech stack we use and, build it from day one, grassroots type stuff. And the first choice we made, and it didn't take long, was we're going to use Slack. Slack is going to be our comms platform. I'm not sure what it's like for people in other industries, but it's certainly in the tech industry and engineers especially just get absolutely hammered by emails, whether they be sales emails, alerting a lot of the time. So my inbox just used to be full of alerts from systems telling me backups had run, backups had failed, we've lost comms to so-and-so, the data center's on fire, blah, blah, blah. And every morning I would wake up and no joke, I would have about 80 emails before I'd even got out of bed. And in that list of 80 emails, there was probably one or two that were probably really important. But 9 times out of 10, because that would happen every day, I would miss things. There would also be, HR type stuff in there, conversations with my manager, and I would miss things. And this drove me crazy and made me stressed, if I'm honest with you. So decision number one on day one was we're going to use Slack, and as best we can, we're going to ban internal email. So if you need to talk to your colleagues within the same business, it's Slack. Do not send me emails. And that actually, for some people, was a very easy transition. And for other people, it took a bit of cajoling. Because, a lot of people have been working the same way for 20 years. They've been sending emails. That's just how it is. And to try and help people see the benefit, it's like if you think of your average sales process internally, just as an example, there could maybe be 20, 30 emails backwards and forwards between the engineers, the sales team, the account manager, etc., etc. If you just create a channel for that and have everything in one place, that whole process can be speeded up. And likewise, if I'm busy in a meeting as a CIO and I'm not paying attention to my email, I can come back and see exactly what's happened, read it in my own time. 2 a.m, who knows? But I know what's going on. I then don't have to ring somebody or, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand, because it's buried away in an email chain somewhere. And that's kind of just the basics, right? So there's the whole email thing. But also Slack has far more benefits to that. And some kind of intangible stuff that I'm going to try and make tangible for the purpose of this presentation, and it's the culture piece. So one of the things that we found at Synaptech especially was we could use Slack to help with our culture. So it's not just about bringing information together, presenting it easily, trying to get out of email, but stupid things or fun things, I should say, like the emojis, like the Giphies, really make work a more enjoyable place to be. And it sounds ridiculous. But one of the things we're going to show you in a minute is some of the things that we built at Synaptech. But things like every Friday morning we have an emoji competition, and we have our admin rules set that anybody can add emojis to the platform. And every Friday, whoever's won the week before gets to pick the topic, and we all submit our emojis. And genuinely, it's something I look forward to on a weekly basis because it's just so much fun, and it's hilarious, and it helps build teams, especially in the backdrop of us not being able to meet for a year or so. The other one we have, which I stole from Slack, which makes me smile and also highlights issues on a daily basis, is the social yelling channel. So we have people who came online yesterday and go, blah, 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 I wish this customer would just understand, etc., etc., etc. I won't share the details, but that then helped me get an account manager to go away and address that problem for our engineer, whereas before they maybe wouldn't have said anything. And it sounds stupid, but it's just really simple stuff like that. And to me, running the type of business that Synaptech is, I want to be as normal as we can. I don't want to use, the fronted business approach. I just want to be myself. I want my staff to be themselves, because I think, we hire the people we hire for a reason, and we want them to be themselves. So let's break down the barriers, and in some cases the hierarchy and some of the noise that doesn't matter, and let's just let people be themselves. And as a result, I think at Synaptech we get far better from our people, because it goes back to that whole bringing your whole self to work thing. It allows people to do that, which is nuts when you consider that platform, and also very important for those who haven't got Slack yet, the structure around it. So this is how our channels work. This is how they're named. These are the type of things we talk about in these channels. These are the type of things we don't talk about in these channels. It does need a bit of governance and a bit of help to kind of, put the right things in the right places. But I can't think of any other piece of technology within our business that has such wide-ranging effects. It's been huge for us. And I, like Yanis, can't imagine running the company without Slack. I think I would go mad, genuinely, because there would just be too much noise and too much stuff for me to get my head around. And as a result, we would miss things. We wouldn't notice that somebody was struggling. We wouldn't, have that sort of ultimately human connection. It would be harder for me to do because I'd have to ring everybody every day type stuff. So that's just some of the other stuff, and that's just my experience. There we go. Livia is in the channel. She loves the social yelling channel. So it says here, the other things that we've built in is things like HR, process and recruitment. So we have quite a big, I wouldn't say turnover of staff, but we grew very fast, sort of fivefold in the last 12 months. And as a result, recruitment is a huge burden on our team and on our company. So what we did, we purchased a platform called Greenhouse, and we have that directly integrated with Slack. We have a channel per job that we're recruiting for. The people who are going to sift the CVs, etc., are in that channel. They can talk about candidates in that channel. They can make decisions in that channel that then kick off other workflows within Greenhouse to offer people interviews, offer people jobs, do contracts, etc., etc. So again, it just makes our life simpler. And the last one on the screen here that I want to talk about is Slack Connect. Slack Connect has changed my world. I love it. I love it when we work with the customer and they say, yeah, we've got Slack, because within about 5 minutes, we've got a shared channel set up, and I can then talk to said customer or partner in Slack like they were an extension of my own team. And that is massive. So for those of you who are desperate to get into companies to try and sell them or to try and help with them, imagine what it's like having them in Slack with you, and they feel like part of your team. That psychologically for me is brilliant, because it then goes back to, let's break down the walls of fronting up as a business, etc., and we can just be ourselves and we can just talk to each other like normal people do, right? And that's huge for me. And we have customers who we have such great relationships with, who will literally pop up in Slack and say, hey, can you do this thing for us, please? Can you let us have a quote? And that's just brilliant. And if you think about time to value and sales stuff, you've cut out a load of noise there. They've come to you with a requirement and can I have a price, please? in a single Slack message, which is great. So yeah, that's it for that slide. So we've got some examples on the next slide. Thank you, Yanis. What have we got here that Jonathan's put together? Yeah, so we've got Bring Your Pet to Work. So we have a pets channel where we constantly post animals in. It sounds really sad. I love that channel. It makes me smile. I love seeing people's cats doing stupid stuff. You can see my animals there, the dog munching a McFlurry and the cat fighting me on the stairs. It's just a bit of fun. It's lovely, and it helps drive that culture. Why wouldn't you share a picture of your cat doing something daft at work? It's hilarious type stuff. On the right-hand side there, you can see the Emoji Competition. So Sophie there was, I can't quite read it, it's too small, but she had a football-themed emoji competition one week. And again, we did something stupid that those that win the emoji competition get the emoji crown in their Slack status for a week. It sounds silly, but it's just fun. It makes coming to work fun. The next one there, Sophie's got a running club. So we have clubs, so special interest things. And again, it builds that culture, but it also brings people into the platform. So if you have got some people who don't want to make the leap from email because it's comfortable and that's what they like doing, come and have a look at this pet club that we've got. Come and have a look at book club is another good one. We've got a Formula One thing, which is pretty much full of memes from me. There's a big group of us into F1, and it helps people learn the platform without you must come here and you will be trained how to use Slack type thing. And it breaks down, again, barriers and just allows you to get stuff done. Drawing a picture. Yeah, so somebody's... so there's Sophie posting in the running club, and I'm not sure what the last one is that Jonathan's got there. I have no idea. Some sort of cat gify by the look of it. Oh no, that's from the Formula One thing. So that's a Valtteri Bottas meme. We actually built some of our own as well. So it mentions on the screen, although it's not got a photo, I think for copyright reasons. During lockdown, one of the things I personally struggled with was remembering to take a break. So I would just work stupid. I would get to 7 o'clock and I'd wonder why I felt a bit rubbish. And the chances are it's because I'd skipped lunch, been sat in the chair all day, my head's pounding and I feel a bit terrible. So one of the things we did during one of our company hackathons that we run on a regular basis, created a little bot. And I don't know if you've ever been to Japan, anyone on the call or know this, but in Japan, Kit Kats are a thing. So in the UK, we might have 5 or 6 different flavors. In Japan, there's millions of them. And they're given to people as gifts. So you give people a box of, green tea flavored Kit Kats, and it's a really special occasion in Japan. So I was telling this story to the team who all thought I was mad. And so what they did, they created a bot that every couple of hours would post a random flavor of Japanese Kit Kat. And all the weird and wonderful flavors you can get, such as potato flavor or whatever. If you don't believe me, Google it. It's ace. And we built that. So, and again, it just adds to that workplace culture. It makes it more fun. And it allows you to have a genuine human connection with your team, which, again, breaks down those barriers and just allows me, ultimately, to get the best from my people and make it a fun place to work. It's as simple as that. So, yeah. Any questions or comments on all that? Cool. Yanis, do you have anything fun at Birmingham Tech? Do you do anything daft like we've got?
I think kind of best kind of gifts and best memes really are the ones, and then kind of getting people creating their own memes is always fun. You get some kind of interesting and entertaining ones back, but I love stuff like this. As I said, the Spotify one is great.
I like that idea.
Yeah, you're going to get to see the Spotify playlist, and obviously anyone can kind of then play any of the songs. So you genuinely do kind of come across some cool new bands, and then you do question some people's choices as well. But all friendly banter.
I think the other thing to mention as well, so there's all this fun stuff that we do, but also the reactions or the emojis that you can add to messages. I love that you can use those to say, you can almost run a poll with it. You can say, like, where should we go for lunch today? And also now in Workflow Builder, you can use an emoji as a trigger. So for instance, we've got something called the Flare bot. So if you're an engineer really struggling with a problem, instead of sitting there all day stressing about it and going out your mind, there's a workflow that triggers a flare, which basically posts a message, say, hello team, Carl is struggling with this thing. Is anyone able to help him? And what will happen then if you use the thumbs up emoji after the flare has been fired, it posts a message back to the person asking for help saying, "Yep, Yanis is available. He'd love to help you. Let's get on a call and figure it out." So again, you can use those emojis to actually convey messages as well as being hilarious sometimes.
Yeah, I remember now. It's like when I was doing some work with Copper, they had their own custom emoji, which was the copper icon, which was kind of only used in very special occasions. But it was, I think, anything like that where you can kind of add a level of customization to your Slack environment, just aligns with the kind of brand, doesn't it? Really. So yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, and I think it's important because I hate tooling that just feels cold, that you don't really like using, but you have to use it because it does the thing you need it to do. I love the fact that that even this community, this call today, Slack's as malleable enough that you can really customize it to suit your business. And you look at the ways that even you and I use it. I mean, same concept, right? But ultimately different applications for different types of business, and that's a big deal for me. And there's not many applications you can do that with.
And I think kind of Slack as well. But one thing that I remember getting kind of just kind of not caught out by it, but I was a bit surprised when I kind of saw it pop up. But you can do video calls. So there I am, kind of working away, and I was working on a presentation, and yeah, the person I was interacting with sent me a kind of call request, and I was like, I didn't even know Slack could do that. And the next minute we've moved from having a conversation over chat to actually having a video call. And of course, sometimes that's just quicker, right? You kind of, you quickly kind of say, "Nah, this is exactly what I was thinking." Right, gotcha. And it just kind of, speeds up the process. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think could be utilized more.
Use that all the time, especially with engineers talking in riddles, and I'm, just come out of a meeting, stood outside Greg's with a pasty type thing. What are you on about? Let's get on a call. Oh, I know what you mean now. Cool, yeah, I'd do that. Brilliant. See you later. And off I go with my Greg's.
Yeah, for me, it's a great blended tool, isn't it? Kind of, it brings together, a work environment, but also allows you to understand people's personalities and interests outside of work, which you say, I think you kind of eloquently put it, Carl. It's that human connection which we're all craving, and if you can kind of do that through a digital environment, all the better, really. I think what I'm interested in when we start to open up again and we can kind of interact in physical form, how we use Slack to kind of carry on the conversation. So you might be at a networking event, but actually kind of you want to carry on that conversation afterwards. How do you bring that into a Slack channel? How do you start to kind of share in interests and ideas and all of that? So yeah, definitely kind of interested to see where the kind of world will go, especially around that kind of hybrid working environment in the next kind of 12 to 18 months.
Let's address the elephant in the room, right? I have lots of conversations every week with people saying, "Oh, we don't bother with Slack. We use Teams." And to me, they're not the same thing. Like Teams is Teams. It does what it does. It does IM. It's got some really basic integration. And that's kind of it. It stops there. So to me, all this other stuff, I kind of think of Slack as almost like the virtual office. It sounds stupid, but it's where everything happens at our company is in Slack, like a traditional building used to be. And to me, if you're just using Slack to do sort of IM and the odd call, you're really missing a trick in a big way, and you probably should just use Teams kind of thing. But yeah, there's far more to it, as we've discussed, than just instant messaging people. Cool, Yanis, we've kind of slipped into the fire pit chat anyway, so let's crack on. Thank you. So let's just talk about stuff. So what would you say is your favorite thing in Slack that you couldn't live without, other than the whole platform, obviously?
Yeah, I think kind of channels for me is kind of, I know it's quite basic, but just helping to kind of organize lots of different moving parts. That's something I can't get through email. So just knowing that I've got I've got something around sponsors I need to talk about. Right, jump into the sponsors channel. Right, I need some volunteer help. Right, jump into the volunteer channel. Yeah, just that kind of ease of organization for me is something I couldn't live without. And then just the way you can interact as well. So it's not just kind of, text. You can kind of put video in there, audio, whatever it may be, and enrich the experience across the board.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. I think on my side, it's got to be for me personally, probably the Slack Connect piece, and somebody's mentioned it in the chat. So the ability, so Slack does all this great stuff, which is wonderful, but in the past, that was just in our office, that was just us. The ability to then expand that into other businesses and sort of transact with them directly from Slack for me is huge, because again, it just saves a ton of email. And the fact that you can also then share workflows or data across those channels as well in a really quick and easy way is massive. I remember ages ago we were doing some work with Okta, and Okta's a two-factor authentication company for those of you who don't know, and it's Slack Connected just come out, and I said, guys, I see you using Slack. Do you want to do like a shared channel thing? And they were like, what's that? I was like, oh, it's really new. It's just come out, and they were like, wow, this is awesome. And it was cool that little old Synaptech got to tell the big boy Okta, like, oh, we've got this cool thing in Slack. And they were, oh, great. And again, create the shared channel, and off we went into the sunset type thing, which just cool. What else? If anyone's got any questions for us, please do post them. Here's one. Yep, somebody, Edward says Slack Connect's the most useful thing to him also. What else have we got? Do you transact with any companies using Slack Connect, Yanis?
We don't yet, no, but it's something we definitely. I mean, I've got to admit, I didn't know much about Slack Connect before this call. I've come across it, but definitely now when I'm thinking we're bringing on partners, and I think if they're already using Slack, then it's a kind of no-brainer, really. So yeah, 100%. And just going back to the previous one, something that popped into my head, which I think is good, and I'm seeing more and more now with Slack, is the ability to get across your company's culture, especially when onboarding new employees as well. So because obviously Slack gives you a history of lots of different conversations, quickly new employees can kind of dive into the different channels and go, oh right, okay, yeah, I get the humor of this organization, I get how people interact. You can even kind of start to understand how individual members of the team interact before you really even know them. So I think that's a great thing with Slack. But again, you just don't get over other channels.
I know I find it weird. So obviously Slack has been at Synaptech literally from day one, before Synaptech was even called Synaptech, in fact. And the fact that if somebody wanted to, they could scroll back through the team channel and quite literally absorb the company's history is mad. Because if you think about every job you've ever had, and myself included, it's like, I've never had that. Almost forensically, like you say, you can see every single thing if you so wished. And like you said, picking up that culture and how the company operates and what the people are like is massive. And you can do it by yourself. You haven't even got to ask anybody. How cool is that type thing?
It kind of makes for a very open and transparent kind of environment, which I think is what's needed in this day and age, really. Companies should very much be like, this is warts and all who we are, and people can kind of consume what they want. So I think it's a sign of a strong culture to do that.
Yeah, and like you say, it does make it more open and transparent, which I would argue is how any modern business should be operating. And if you're not, again, it's where Slack could help with that. I think Slack as well is good at scale. So one of the things I stress about on a daily basis is Synaptech's grown real fast. This time last year there was, well, actually a bit beyond that now, but there was only 2 of us, and there's now 10 of us. So trying to get that culture, that ethos, that way of working at scale, I think Slack helps us with that as well, because on your first day, this is Slack, this is how our channels work, this is where you can get help with things, this is where you can go read about what we got up to in the past. it just makes you feel part of the furniture quicker, which is a good thing. What any more questions from anybody? Everyone's just been wowed by my dulcet tones for the last 40 minutes.
One thing that I use kind of, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but one thing I use in Slack is the to-do command. So I'm always kind of thinking, well, every conversation leads to a new task, right? So to be able to kind of use a to-do command, which and then kind of follow it by whatever I need to do, just kind of keeps me kind of honest when it comes to kind of what I need to do and when I need to do it. So it's a great reference point to be able to say, right, actually, yes, that conversation led to that action. Now I've documented it, instead of kind of forgetting it and then kind of having people chase you or whatever that may be. So yeah, a great way to kind of organize what you need to be doing when you need to be doing it.
I'd agree. Ken, to your question, so it depends who you are and what you are in Slack. But in Slack, if you open the user interface, and right at the top, it says threads, DMs, mentions, reactions, Slack Connect. And depending on the size of your screen, it might say apps there, but if not, click more, it will say apps below. If you click that, that will show you all the apps that are currently live within your Slack tenant, so that the administrators have turned on and are there to be used, which sometimes you forget about. I've just clicked ours and I'm like, wow, we've got loads. And then also, if you click that, at the top is a link to the app directory. And the app directory is a website where you can see all the lovely things that you could turn on in Slack and connect to. And there's loads, absolutely loads. I quite like having a snoop around there because it gives me ideas for things, whether it be, and they're actually broken down by sort of department, if you like. So some are HR things, some are culture things, some are business processy type stuff, or G Suite, for instance, DocuSign. We found that was brilliant the other day. So now whenever I get a contract, instead of being on an email, it pops up in Slack and says, Yanis wants you to sign this NDA between the two companies. Do you want to sign it? Yes, I do. And it comes back and pops up in Slack and tells me it's complete. Again, wonderful. I can do that from my phone, sat in the car, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, do have a look. Do take a look. We've got tons of stuff like that. Atlassian, if you use the Atlassian suite, brilliantly integrated with Slack. The list goes on, and they're forever adding stuff. So yeah, do take a look. I think Neve's just posted in the chat as well. Slack.com/apps. You can just go straight to the website should you so wish. Cool. Any more questions? I think if there's no more questions, we'll probably wrap up. Yeah, Lee said he's found a great wiki and knowledge-based platform for non-profits. Yeah, good shout. Any more questions at all? Doesn't look like it. Cool. So that's it from us. Yanis, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll hopefully see you again as well at the next community event, whenever that might be. I am the reason that we don't yet have a date in the calendar, and for the simple reason of I'm expecting a baby in the next 5 weeks. Not myself personally, my wife. But we will be posting out soon, and hopefully it might even be able to be in person as well, but we will watch this space. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Jonathan, Sophie, and Suzanne for putting this together. Neve for supporting, and Yanis for joining us on our first event. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.